Hello, everyone. Oh, no, just doing that. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the this webinar about top tips to apply for the for business awards. I was just getting an odd message then as I came up. So if you're in the chat and you're joining us, if you can just put a thumbs up or something to tell me how you can see what I'm doing. That would be fantastic. I'm just going to skip on here. My name's Kerry Hart. I'm a Senior Engagement Specialist at the Cornwall Growth Hub. And this webinar is particularly focused for Cornwall Rewind Radio's Business Awards, which is open right now. We're looking at the Growth Hub is sponsoring Growth Business of the Year. So I'm really happy to support that. We're going to be part of the judging panel, and hopefully we're going to be coming along to the award ceremony as well and seeing all the fabulous winners and the stories behind the businesses that have put themselves forward. So just a bit of housekeeping. So the cameras are going to be all off for this webinar. So you're automatically on cameras off and muted. You can ask questions in the chat or the Q&A. So which will and I'll rattle through the slides and we'll get to the Q&A at the end. And you won't get the slides, but a playback will be sent to everyone. So you'll get a copy of this recording. And hello to everybody who has joined us on the playback on watching this on a video. So hello to everybody joining us there. I'm just going to say a little bit about the Growth Hub. So the Growth Hub is we've been running for 10 years, coming up in May, and we're here to help your business to get to the next level. We're in a bit of a transition phase at the moment, so we have just come to the end of one set of funding under Shared Prosperity Fund, and we're moving into the next phase of our funding and who we're going to be supporting. So really, it's a bit of a watch this space situation for the Growth Hub at the moment about who we're going to be supporting going forward. And to keep up to date with everything, you can subscribe to our newsletter and you can find that on our website. Okay, so we're going to crack on with the top tips. If anyone can just put in the Q&A if they can hear me and see me and see the slides, okay, that would be perfect. If anyone's there, and if not, I'm just going to crack on. if I don't hear anybody, if everyone's found the Q&A. So yeah, if we can crack on with the top tips. Here we go. So I'm going to launch our first poll. Have you ever applied for a business award before? So it'll just give us an idea of who's attending the session today. I can see people are participating, so they must be able to see the slides. Fantastic. So yes, so we've got a bit of a 50-50 split here. So never voted. And regularly, most years are put in for an application. So hopefully, you know, some of this will be, some of the tips that I'll share will be, you know, run of the mill. You'll have known if you're applying for awards regularly, you'll know. But it maybe if you're attending this webinar, maybe you've got to the point where you're applying year on year, but you're maybe not grabbing that trophy. So there's some tips on there for going kind of good to winner. And then there's absolutely for people who've never applied for awards before, these are you know, some of the absolute basics. So yeah, fantastic. We can crack on with the tips now. And the tips are, I would start with, what's the point? So really take a bit of a step back. This isn't about applying for the awards and about the physical process of it. It's really just asking yourself, as a business, why do you want to win an award? What's the point of your business? Because it does take time and effort. It's, you know, it's not something you can just knock out in half an hour before you go home for the day. It really takes time to think about, you know, who you are as a business, what you've achieved, and putting that down onto paper and proving it with evidence, and you know, and putting all that together really does showcasing your business in a fantastic way, and then going on and making the most of it is really, it's a proper commitment that you have to make. So why do you want to do it? You've got to have a real good business goal for the reason why you're going to be, what are you going to do with the award if you win, and what are you going to do if you don't win? Are you going to use this process to try and build some learning into your business? Are you going to be using the awards process to maybe think about new things or different approaches or things that you should be doing? So what's the point of the award? Why do you want to go on and apply, and why do you want to win? So the typical example is somebody's applying for employer of the year. They'll be using it to say, in recruitment adverts, they'll be saying, we're an award-winning business. We treat our staff really well, and we make sure that goes on all of your job applications if you've got a problem with recruiting for a different a different role, for example. So yeah, there's got to be a real good business goal for it, and you've got to keep that in mind as you're working through the process. How are you going to really frame the award, and what are you going to do with it if you win? Okay, so I'm going to launch this second poll now. So what is the main business reason that you've got for entering the awards? Is it for marketing, PR? Is it to boost your credibility? Is it to, if you're launching a new product, you want people to know about it, you want to be able to add in, award-winning on your sales process? Is it about winning new customers and sales? Do you do a lot of tenders and you want to be able to say that you've had an external assessment of your business, and it's about winning new customers? Is it, as I said, is it about recruitment and retention? Do you need to be, is it a great thing to sort of to reflect your staff, your current staff, not about recruitment? Is it about saying that they've done a fantastic job and really celebrating them, and it's boosting their staff morale? Supporting tenders and procurement, celebrating the team. So what are we saying? So the majority here are going with new sales and marketing and PR. So that's great to hear. Oh, and something else. We'll never know what that something else is. So it's really about keeping that main business, the business reason for why you're doing this. Because if you're doing it for marketing and PR credibility, and then you get to the end of the process and you've won your award, and you don't use that, you don't stick it anywhere, you don't put it in your adverts, you don't shout about it on social media, you don't put the effort into after promotion as you did to the application, then you've missed the main reason why you did the award in the first place. And because this process is quite long, and it's quite it can be it's a long time, so you apply and then you wait weeks, and then you've got the ceremony and things like that, so it can take a lot of time, so you can sort of maybe lose the reason why you started this in the first place. So you've really got it's a good idea to kind of mark that down and say, come up with a plan of how you're going to mine this business reason, this business goal, for everything you've got whilst you're in the process of the awards. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to that. Let's click on. So I'm going to crack on with you the actual tips now. So the basics, really, I would say, if you've never applied for an award before, most of them are online now. So your entries will be, you'll be filling in an online form. I would absolutely say to you, apply offline, download the questions, copy them and paste them onto a Word document, and fill them on online. Don't just enter them straight into the website just for a purely technical reason, because if that website crashes or you don't know where the save button is, and then you may have done hours of work, and then that will all be wasted. You would at least say that save the questions and your entry for future use. So if you're preparing it offline, you basically, a lot of these award applications, you're saying the same things, so they're asking very much the same questions over and over again. So you can use those, use that as a basis if you're applying for another award, other than that business award. If you're applying for future awards, then you can use that as a starting point and tweak and refine it. The one thing I would say is, if you are preparing it offline, you need to look at the word count. So obviously some some online entries will have a character count or a word count within that box. So just make sure you know that first, because you don't want to be filling in a whole A4 page of words and then realize you've only got a sort of 200 word count and the actual box, and you're going to have to cut it down. So so check the word count before you start preparing your entry offline. And if there's one thing that I would say to you, and if you want to leave the webinar now, is my key top tip, if you don't take anything else away from this session today, is do not leave it till the last minute, because we have heard lots and lots of people who've come to us and said, I'm not able to, the deadline, it's passed, I had a last minute emergency, I couldn't do this, my computer crashed, blah blah blah, and I'm not able to get the entry in. It's extremely unlikely that the organizer of the awards is going to be able to give you that kind of wriggle room, because the deadline's there for a reason. It's fair to everybody, but also you're just leaving it. If you're putting in an entry, it's going to be rushed. You're not going to have time to to refine it and to relook at it and tweak it and enhance it. So absolutely don't leave it till the last minute. Most award applications are open for a really long time, but the majority of applications will come in the last week, in the last day, and sometimes in the last hour. But I would absolutely urge you not to leave it until the very last day or the last minute to send that, because you absolutely don't know what's going to be happening. You might have spent a long time preparing it, and then the upload button just doesn't work, or something happens and you can't submit it, and then that's all wasted. Okay, so which ones to enter? So this is more broader around kind of general business awards. I would say you're looking at who has credibility. So there'll be a lot of awards that you can maybe apply for where there's maybe a fee. So there's maybe a fee to apply, or there's a fee to book a table at the awards. So that's a lot of the time how they make their money, and cover the costs of the award ceremony. So just have a look at if you're going to be spending actual real life cash on these things, does it have credibility? Who else has won it in the past? How have they used it? Have they maybe seen an increase in sales? Are they a credible company themselves? Previous winners, have they been able to use it, leverage it? Are they mentioning it in their social posts and things like that? So have a look around. There's lots of business awards and lots of general awards out there, but there'll be only a few that they'll really be able to leverage for your business goals. So again, going back to your business goal, what is the point of doing it? And I would say one of the things is read the questions. If you picked on an award as a whole, the entity, then read all the questions in all the categories. And because then, you might be thinking, right, I've got a definite category that I want to apply for, but I would say read all of the questions in all the categories as a starting point, because it might be that there's some things which are, that ticks a box for me. I didn't really think I could apply for that one, but that one's really interesting actually, and that I think we could do a really good job at this. So if you just want to be award winning, then it sort of doesn't really matter what the category is. For instance, if you don't want to be, you don't have to do employer of the year, for instance, because if you just want to be an award winning business, then it might be that you just want to apply for these awards and be a bit more strategic about that. But again, this goes back to your business goal and how it is that you're going to be planning on using it. And if you've got questions, if you're not sure about something, then all you can do is ask. You can be cheeky. You can ask some questions. The organisers of most awards will want to have some great applicants. They'll want to have great, they want to have great companies applying. And if that's you, they'll try and help if you're not sure. And they can only, if they don't want to help, because of reasons of fairness to the other applicants, then they can only say no. So, but if you've got questions, I think generally people will try to help and answer and be supportive. So the first thing you need to do as a business, when you're applying for awards, you need to think about what your business actually does. And this is not an existential question. Who is your business? What is it you sell, and who is it for? And what you've got to understand is, as a judge, we've never heard of your business. You know it inside out. But judges can maybe, even if you're a really popular business, you've got great name recognition, they might not know exactly what your business does, what you sell, who it's for. So it's really about explaining to somebody who doesn't understand, not in your sector, not in your sphere, and you've got to be able to condense that concept before you start talking about how good it is. So what is it your business does, and then how you're really good at it is what you've got to get over really quickly in an awards application. And this is why I put ask Nana. Ask somebody who's completely outside of your sphere, somebody who's totally outside, and say, this is who it is, this is what our business does, this is what we sell, this is what we do, this is why we're great. Does this make sense? And they should be able to give you some kind of feedback, hopefully, to make sure that it's that is how the judges are going to experience it and understand very quickly, because you don't want to be using your word count explaining what your business does constantly, because that word count is where you want to be selling and want to be describing how good you are, not what you do. And the other thing I would say is, do you have good growth? So is there this part of your business which is you're driving, you're doing sales, but is there all the things that you're doing as well? What's your community work? How will you treat your staff? Are you doing any kind of sustainability? Are you great for the environment? Try and crowbar those things in as well, even if it's not kind of directly related to the question, because it just shows that you have a whole business is geared towards being a great business, being a great part of the community, and being a great employer, not damaging the environment as you're part of your operations. So that is always one of those things that it just gives a bit of a framing about who you are and what your business does. Okay, so this might sound obvious, but make it shine. This isn't the time to be modest about your business, about what you do. This is basically an interview process for your business. You've got to be loud and proud. You've got to be absolutely, completely sell yourself. Don't be modest about what you do and what your achievements are. But you've also got to be authentic, and you've got to be honest. So don't make stuff up. Don't oversell. And don't make claims that you can't back up. We'll get to more of that later. And you can tell a story. So tell a story about what you do, and tell a story about, how you've come to where you are, the challenges that you've had, and that makes it authentic and honest, rather than it just being, I was fantastic from day one. If you can talk about the challenges and things like that, then that shows that you are, you've got where you are through hard work and dedication, and an acknowledgement that running a business is really hard work. One of the things that I've kind of slotted in here is using AI, and so AI can be a fantastic tool, but it is also quite generic. But it is a great opportunity. I'm a big fan of AI, of getting rid of that blank white page fear. So if you've got nothing and you don't know where to start, AI might be a really good place to sort of like jot down some bullet points and get that into something which is coherent to start with, but it's not authentically you. It's not honest, and it might not be kind of build in all of your kind of knowledge that you have about your story and your business. So you need to be building that in yourself to make sure that that's realistically you, because that's what the judges want to see. And as I say, the judges are people, and realistically, they'll read a lot of entries. Now, yours might be fantastic, and you might think, yeah, this is absolutely me. This is clearly a winner. This is a kind of a nod to those people who've applied before, time and time again, but never tipped themselves into the winners category and never picking up that trophy. You've got to appreciate that judges read a lot of these things, and a lot of these things will be very similar. And again, this is something to think about in terms of an AI generated response. You've got to think, what makes yours stand out? What is your story? What makes your business journey stand out, not just about what you do, because anyone can have great, have great turnover, have great profit margins, appeals to staff. But what is the process behind that? What drove you to do that in the first place? Why is that important to you? You've got to appeal to the heart and the head within an application. You've got to, and giving as much of yourself and your personality and why you're doing this and why you want to win is really important in an application. And that can make the difference between an average entry and one that really appeals to them and it sticks in their mind, and they start jotting down a few more score points on their pad, and they maybe come back to that one at the end and have another reread if it's between 1 or 2. That's the thing that will tip it over the edge. And this is a straightforward one. Just be an easy read. Use plain English. This seems, it seems obvious, but sometimes avoiding jargon. You don't even know you're using jargon within sectors. Sometimes you think, oh yeah, everybody knows what the XYZ product is, but they don't. As I say, some of the judges are going to be outside of your sector. They're going to be, maybe fresh to the business, have no idea who your business is, what they do. So avoid jargon at all costs, and try not to use acronyms at all if possible, because people might not understand them. And just think of a structure of, you start with a little bit like beginning, middle and end, so think of it as like this and this resulted in this and this, so make sure that it has a structure and it's following, it makes kind of logical sense as you work through it. So you can say, we did this, this is why we did it, and then this was the impact that it had. So it follows a structure, and then try and repeat that structure if possible in all of the application questions, because then that is what makes it an easy read. And then, as I say, the judges are going to read a lot of these. If it's complicated or if it doesn't make sense or if it's jumping around the place, then it's just another excuse. If it's an easy read and it's nice and well structured, then it's just an excuse to the judges can start putting tick 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 next to your application. So we're a business award. This we're not, you're not a local hero. This isn't a lifesaver of the year, and this is a business awards that you're applying for. And ultimately, business is about making money and turning over a profit. Even if you're a charity or an organisation, it's about your bottom line, and making money is the number of people you can support, and the number of people that how well you're doing as an organisation to be able to deliver the most impact that you can. So they want to hear about the bottom line. They want to hear about how it has, how all of the things that you've done has affected the money that you make. So if you're a fantastic employer, you can say, we went from we had quite a high turnover of staff, for instance, and that was costing us a lot of money in recruitment and costs and training. So we did this, and this, and the impact was this, and that has saved us X amount of money a year. And you don't have to put figures. You can put percentages. You can make an overview of what that cost you as a business. You don't have to say that cost us 50,000 and now we've reduced it, if you don't want to give figures and you don't want to release that about your business. But yeah, absolutely, they want to hear about the impact that all of the decisions that you have made in how you're running a really great business. Okay, so this one's a really critical one. Does the data match what you say? So this is about going back to being honest and authentic. To get the difference between an average application and a fantastic application is you have to back it up with evidence. So this is what we did, this is why we did it, this was the impact that we've had, and this is how I can prove it. But to do that, this is the work that it takes. You have to track your figures all year round. You have to be able to pull these information when you're doing an application at your fingertips. So you should have some basic tracking. You should be able to say, this is how much our company's made, this is how much turnover we've made, this is how much profit we've made. But then you need to be looking at other things like, customer satisfaction, data, employee satisfaction data, anything that you can do, which is basically something you can track. You need to be making sure that that's in one nice place, and so that you can pull that out, so that it makes good business sense for you to be looking at these things. And this is one of the things where, if you use awards properly and the application, this can be something where you're looking at, all right, this is actually the process of applying for awards has made us think about our business and where we're going, and has made us step back and take a bit of an overview of where we're doing every year, and so that's a useful process in itself, rather than picking up the trophy. And I would say create a brag file. So if you're not tracking compliments and you're not putting them somewhere, start doing it. Is it your customers? Is it your suppliers? Is it who's saying nice things about you? Start tracking those things, and that's a great way to stick in and say, look, we've this isn't what we're saying, this is what somebody else is saying about us, and that's really powerful. So for every kind of statement that you make, you need to be able to back that up. So if you're saying, oh, we've reduced recruitment costs, okay, well that's fine, that's a statement. But if you can say we've recruited, we've reduced our recruitment costs by 15%, and that's cost, and that has saved us X amount in costs per year, then that's an actual solid piece of evidence that you can say, oh right, okay, this business understands, it's really got its eye on the ball here. So not being vague and proving what you say with evidence. And as I said, you can use percentage figures if you're not keen on giving actuals. Okay, so I'm just going to launch. How confident are you that you can back up your claims with evidence or data? How are you kind of tracking your data at the moment? Is there something that you can draw on straight away? Mostly solid. I've got one there. I've got about 4. Is there anyone else? Anyone coming in? So we all seem pretty confident. So that's really good to hear. It's good that you've got you've got that kind of solid basis of, yeah, I've got stats to pull out. There's obviously always more you can do, but that's great to hear that you've got things that you can pull out and you can use as data. But I would absolutely say, if you want to get clean, nice award applications, evidence for every single statement that you make is where you're going to go from absolutely an average application to a good application to a winning application. This is where it's going to make the difference. Okay, so as we're getting to the end here, so we've got our first version, and this is a critical part of why you shouldn't leave it to the last minute, because I would definitely recommend printing that out and using some sort of red pen. So the red pen is making sure every single word that you have within that application is used strategically. So if you can say something in 2 words instead of 5 words, then that gives you an extra sentence to be able to bung in more evidence and bung in more statements about how great you are. So cut out any sort of duplicate words, anything where you're sort of slightly waffling. And then that should be able to, if you've got a word count, and then it'll free up, and you might find that you've got an extra paragraph that you can stick in, which will allow you to say something else. Highlight your evidence. So going back to where your data is, you've made a statement, highlight your evidence. Is every single bit of your, once you've printed it out, have you got lots of highlighted yellow all over the place? Fantastic, you've got a great application. Adding in some extra quotes. So where can you, if you reduce your word count there, where can you add some quotes in from your bragging file? Where can you stick extra bits of evidence in? And then just go back, read it afresh, and think, am I actually answering the question? So there'll be a lot of award applications who will drift off saying something about how fantastic they are, blah, 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 but they're not actually, you think, I can't give this any scoring. So they'll usually have a scoring sheet of blah, 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 blah. Have they answered this? Have they said this? And if you're not answering the question, then you're going to get 0 points at the end of the day, So, it might be a fantastic answer, but to what question? Go back, look at the question and say, have I actually answered all the points in the question? And then be honest. Would you give yourself 10 out of 10? Would you score yourself? Absolutely. If you're going to be honest with yourself, would you, if you act as a judge, would you be able to tick do 10 ticks on each answer. If you're scoring out of 10, have you ticked all the points? Because award applications, I would say, are usually really, really close. So the difference between the top 3 and the top 5 is usually 1 or 2 points across the board. So if you can give yourself extra space by editing and sticking more and more evidence in, then that is how you go from a runner-up to a winner and picking up that trophy, which is, let's face it, that's what we all want. We want our time on the stage, and we want the photograph to be able to put on our social media with a big shiny trophy, and that is going to be the difference, is that you cram as much evidence as possible in there, and you give as much opportunity to do ticks and marks on a bit of paper as they're reading your application. So the other option is give that to somebody else, give that to a trusted friend or colleague, and say, this is the application, you judge that, you see what you think, and this, if you give yourself time, then you've got plenty of time to then go and review it and stick some other stuff in that you think will help get you over the line. And one of the most obvious things I can say to you is hit the word count. So when we get applications come in, you'll look at them and you think, this was a 200-word application, for an answer text box, and they've only given me 100 words. You automatically know you're not going to be able to score. You're not ticking all the boxes there. You're not winning if you have half of the word count that's available to you, because you're just not going to be able. You're not going to be saying as much as somebody who says, even if those 100 words are fantastic, you're just not saying as much as somebody who's going to be saying 200 words. That's just the reality of it. And as I say, you might have a fantastic business, you might have some fantastic things to say, but the scoring is so tight. It really is between 1 and 2 points on every one. And if you're not hitting the word count on every single answer, then you have to question about why you're doing it in the first place. Sticking in an application on the last day of the awards, and then giving 100 words to something which wants a page just isn't going to cut it. So you have to go back to your business goal. Why are you doing this? What is the point of it? If you're not going to take it seriously, then the awards want to read about fantastic businesses, and they want to see, they want to be able to sell that to them. So they want to read all about you and your business, and so giving them the word count is absolutely essential. Okay, again, this one might seem obvious. Check for spelling. Some judges are really quite hot on this. If there's spelling errors and things like that, then they'll mark you down for that. I would recommend using AI to check, even if you think you don't want to use AI to write the application or to help you start you off, then using it for contextualized spell checking is really helpful. So you can say, instead of saying from or form, AI will know the context that you want to say it. So the word is technically spelled correct, but it's in the wrong context. So, using AI to do spell checking, contextualized spell checking is really helpful, even if you use it for nothing else. And one thing I would say is be consistent in your facts and figures. So, throughout the whole application. So don't start using, if you say, from 2003 to 2006 we did this and this, and then the next minute you're saying from 2020 to 2026 we did the same thing and we did this, and you think, I'm confused, is that good or bad, because that doesn't seem as good as that one. So just try and be consistent in the way that you present your facts and figures. And again, this is going back to being an easy read. Just make it really easy for the judge to understand and follow what you're talking about. And one of the tips I would say is, when you print it out and you've got a final version, just read it out loud, because ultimately that's how the judge is going to be reading it in their head. So reading it out loud, does it flow? Does it sound like it's makes sense? You can read it to somebody else if you're confident to do that, or just reading it to yourself. Say, does this make sense? Does this flow? Does it sell what I'm trying to say in a really coherent way? And reading it out loud rather than reading on a screen is sometimes really helpful to kind of get your head around that. Okay, so you got your final draft. You've made your first draft, you've edited it, you've looked at that, you've looked over and over again at that with fresh eyes, you've checked if you've asked the question, you've asked for feedback. And again, I'm just going to reiterate this, every single point counts. So go back in and squeeze in every last bit of detail and every information on every answer using all that word count. Okay, so I'm just going to launch the final poll here. So what's been your biggest challenge for people, or what are you most worried about as you're applying for the awards? What are you looking at as a biggest challenge? Oh, blimey, everyone's voted at once. Okay, so we've got so this is a multiple choice. So we're looking at, probably across the board there, lots of things. Lots of things here. Finding the time, not leaving it to last minute. Yeah, it's good that you've appreciated that that's an issue. Choosing the right category. So one of the ones that hasn't come up is keeping within the word count. So that's good. Got to hit that word count and making it sound confident but authentic. So nobody's picked those two. So that's really interesting. So proofreading, really, really important to proofread. As I say, again, it's just about making it make sense to the judge and making it an easy read, rather than punishing, minor typos. If there's some sort of problem, if there's a confusion over a word choice, then you need to just make sure that all of those things are ironed out. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that. So you've done your application. It's in. There's nothing you can do about it now. It's down to the judges. It's down to the, it's down to the winners on the night. You're either a winner or a loser. And one of the things I would say is just don't be a sore loser. You've got to think, look, I've got something out of the process. The award application and the process that we've gone through has been really helpful in and of itself. So it's made us think about things differently. It's made us be able to sell confidently. It might have even done some things like it's helped you refine how you sell a product or how you sell your business, because you've been selling it, you've read it out loud, you've really kind of gone to town on thinking about your business and why you're doing it, and that makes you be able to be confident in selling your business and selling your products. And it could be that you start thinking, well, I could do a little social post about that or something. So that whole process, hopefully you'll try and see it as getting something out of it in and of itself. And I would say to you, there can only be one winner, and they'll get business awards will get hundreds of entries, and some of them will be average, some of them won't hit the word count because they're not watching this webinar, but some of them will, and a lot of them will be fantastic, and they'll be fantastic businesses, but you can only give one trophy away. And it doesn't mean that your business isn't any good, and it doesn't mean that the judges weren't really, really impressed with you. But unfortunately, there is only one shiny bit of metal that they can give away, and only get one business up on stage. So they have to pick one. And I can tell you, I've been a judge myself. It is really, really difficult picking out somebody between one and another, and it really does come down to absolutely finest of margins. So don't beat yourself up too much if you don't pick up that trophy. And one of the things I would say is check out the competition. Why did they win? What do you think is good about them? Is there any ideas or things that you can pick up on that you think, oh, they've done that, have they, with their staff? Maybe we could think about doing that for next year. So there's a little bit of learning and process that you can do. If you're at the ceremony, you've been shortlisted, you can promote and network yourself. There'll be a lot of things. I'm going to go into that in a little bit in a minute, but even if you don't win, there's a really great opportunity to kind of promote yourself and network in the room, network with the other businesses, network with the sponsors, with the organisers. Continue that sales process of getting your name out and about. If one of the main business goals, going back to question right at the beginning, is around PR and credibility, then just being shortlisted and just being nominated and just being in the room is enough. And you can put that stuff out on social. You can be that kind of like magnanimous loser and say, congratulations to the winner, fantastic, they're a fantastic business, it was great to be involved and be recognised for what we did, blah, blah, blah. And as I say, go again. You know, a lot of these business awards are asking very similar questions over and over again. So, you know, you've done all the hard work, you put that application together. Maybe it's just a question of refining that, tweaking that, looking at that again, adding some more evidence in, you know, refining it a little bit, and sticking that application in. And it could be that your fantastic application with a different judging panel with different priorities, they go with you instead of your competition or a winner from a previous award. So it really is, you know, it really is down to the mood on the day and what's kind of important to the individual judge. So absolutely go again, don't be disheartened. And my last tip is plan to win. So that can be one of the things where don't let it take you by surprise. Go back to your business goal. What is it? What is the reason why you did this in the first place? So it can feel like, and I've seen this a lot, that you go in, you pick your trophy up, you've had a few glasses of bubbly, you're absolutely, you know, you're ecstatic, you've got all your little photos on your phone, and then you forget about that. You know, you go back to the office, it's the next day, and you think, oh gosh, I've got a bit of hangover. I don't want, you know, let's park that in the corner and get on with the day job. But really, you have to go back to your business goal. Why did you start to do it in the first place? So one of the things I would say is plan to win. So plan a story. So plan a press release before you go. If you win, you know, travel positively. You know, you can park that if you don't win and never think about it again. But, you know, if you've got something ready to go, because you've got to hit the ground as it is a news story, you know, so if you can say, this is why we've won. You know, we did this last night, fantastic. This is why we did it. This is why it was important to us. This is our story. So get that all ready, because I can tell you, you're not going to want to do that the day after the ceremony when you've got a bit of a sore head. Live is best on socials. So if you're predominantly using this as a social media, doing it live on the night, it might not think about that. That, you know, your competitors and your customers maybe are watching that live, but you'll get a lot of engagement from the people in the room, from the sponsors, from the organisers, if you're putting out social on the night. So you can, you know, on the way here, this is our team, we've arrived at the awards, you know, fantastic, you know, really looking forward to it, you know. And then if you win, fantastic, lots of pictures celebrating, you know, maybe a little video of you talking about, you know, don't forget to bring a little microphone so they can hear you in a busy room. So I would say put on your PR hat as well as your party hat. Even if your business goal wasn't strictly around marketing and PR, then there's always, you know, you're always going to get some mileage out of winning an award and show that you're a happy, celebrating company and a great place to work. So, you know, that's always a tick box. And as I say, go back to your business goal about why you're doing it in the first place. So have we got any questions? I don't think we had any questions. There was just somebody who was struggling to get some audio at the beginning. So if you've got any questions now, particularly, then we can pick those up. But otherwise, I will just say thank you very much for coming. I hope that wasn't too much of a whistle stop example. You can always, as I say, you'll get the recording back. Thank you to everybody who's watching this on the video. I will be also, I've got a bit of a one-page brief, well, it's 2 pages, but a bit of a summary of these top tips as well on a PDF. So I'm happy to email those around. If you want to get in touch, I can email those around to everybody that's signed up, and you can share those with the people that are applying for the awards. There's no more questions, so I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for answering those polling questions. That's fantastic, and good luck with your applications, and hopefully we'll see you. I'll be reading some of your applications when I do the judging day, and I'll be seeing you on the night picking up some of those trophies. Please come and say hello if that helps. All right, thank you very much. Cheers, bye.